I'm Aaron from Prince of Eden, and you're watching In the Mud with Prince of Eden.
2018, I was a senior in high school, and I was kind of just making beats, like making little songs here and there, and I'd post on SoundCloud every once in a while. Um, and my friends would listen to them and be like, "Oh, these are really good." You kind of struggle with like your friends telling you something's good because you're kind of like, "Oh, you're just being a friend. Like, is my outfit actually cool, or are you just saying that?" So you're like, you know what I mean? And so I would kind of believe in them to be like, "Oh, okay." So I'd release more things, and then they say, "No, these are actually I love listening to these." I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, thank you." Um, and then so that's when I kind of like went for because I was super into like Lumineers, Young the Giant, stuff like kind of folk, but like very like abstract vocalist like driven. And so I started writing Mammal Talk. I think I was like 17 or 16 at the time. And then I was showing all my friends the demo. They're like, dude, that's like top of the line. And like looking back now, um it's almost like how far, because my brother used to be involved in like the production and stuff, and he used to be the producer of Prince of Eden. And then he kind of took a break, and then I kind of caught up to him, and now I'm self sufficient in like producing, mixing, mastering and stuff like that. But just looking back, it's like as far as production goes of that song, it's so like naive, and it's so like it's not there at all. But it's like a beautifully written, I love it, and it's literally the backbone of like Prince of Eden. But I'd say in 2018, like when I wrote that song and then I dropped it, and then it started like really taking off and doing well. That's when I kind of figured like, this is something I could really like pursue. And even still today, I don't see myself as like an artist. I don't see myself as like this musician or anything. And it's almost like a security thing. Um, and I feel like every musician struggles with this. It's like, should I get a plan? Should I have a plan B? Should I have this like am I doing this correctly? Like, especially because it's so flooded now that like there's like millions and millions of people. Like I read some stat that like New Music Friday has something like 40,000 songs drop per week, which is nuts. Like it's just it's so hard to like feel almost like special or feel like you're doing something different than anybody else, because you come across people that have written these beautiful songs that just like bring you to tears, and they have like 22 monthly listeners, they have like maybe a few Instagram, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just comes down to like luck. It comes down to who can get the most connections. It comes down to anything like that. And so um I kind of struggle like calling myself an artist, because I'm getting more into like the business side of it, where I need to like create these like content boosters and meet with marketing teams, meet with all this stuff. And I miss the days like kind of back in 2018 where I just wrote these songs that I was passionate about, and people enjoyed them, and it was that simple. Um, but now and like getting a team and like having managers and having people kind of work for you, that helps a lot, because then I can focus on just like the basics of I'm gonna write, I'm gonna just prepare my image. Like that's all I need to worry about is just the creative side of things. I don't need to worry about shows, booking shows, just anything like that. Um so very, very long story short, 2018 is when I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna be an artist. I've been asked this before, and I always go straight to the second album, and it's Loving with a Broken Heart. That just kind of like depicts like as far as lyricism, like instrumentals, like everything about it kind of just like was my like it's just what I love to listen to. It's what I love to like surround myself in. But now it's kind of like I'm so far from what I was when I wrote that, and like what like as far as that sounds too. Um, I don't know. Maybe Amber the Sun's Dawn is probably the closest and like the most, because it's always just the most recent thing I've done. I'd say like I'm just kind of progressing, and it all still has that like kind of like spirit lifting like like Prince of Eden sound. Like I don't know. People have tried to explain it to me because I don't see it. It's almost like I see music as like it sucks. And I wanted to tell you guys about this. It sucks like being in the industry of something and like really having to build something in it. Like being in the video production industry and then going to see a movie and you're like, dang, I see like everything that they've done. It's like writing a song. It's kind of like math. It's literally oh, this fits with this now, and I'll do this to do that. Whereas like back in 2018 when I first started, it was kind of like, this makes me feel something. And it's totally like that. Like I'm not just like 1+1=2 in it. Like it's everything is still emotion driven, but it's just so tough because it's like um yeah, it's just becoming so like business like, and almost like I like to say mathematic. That's probably the best way to do it. Just like a lot of numbers and different stuff. But probably Loving with a Broken Heart, and then Amber of the Sun's Dawn. My favorite way and the most like genuine I feel to myself is when I just like, because I don't find myself like a great musician, like an actual like instrumentalist. Because I grew up just using like a MIDI keyboard. Like that's like the majority of what songs I used to make. And so just it's just kind of like rooted in my mind. Like I've always been surrounded by such incredible musicians. Like my dad has been this choir director, perfect pitch, like um music theory teacher for the past like 30 years. And so it's almost like I had to live up to that. In my head I'm kind of like, I don't really, it just seems like there's so much there that I can't like keep up with. So I've always felt like I'm not. But in the past couple of years, I've just said like, you know what, I do love natural and real instrumentation as much as MIDI is like the future. Like you can play any instrument on this set of keyboard or this set of keys. Um, Picking up an instrument and just like almost telling myself that you can play it, because any instrument, because I kind of learned on the piano essentially first, and that you can build chords yourself. You can just go dun, 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 and then that'll make a chord. Same thing on the guitar. You just say you get those rooted like strings, and then you just add a few more. And I almost like build these chords. It takes me a while because, like I said, I don't feel like I'm a great instrumentalist, but once I get them, um, that's the power of like today's studios, today's like at home things. You don't have to be a killer musician to have these like insane like guitar licks, insane like progressions, melodies. Like you can just sit there for an hour and a half to get one little thing right. You know what I mean? And so um in a way I'm also this like perfectionist, because if it doesn't sound perfect, and if it doesn't sound like I did it in like myself in like one take, then I kind of have to like redo it. So previously in the past two albums, it's just been kind of like whatever song I've written in the past like year, I'll put into this like collage, and it'll just be some kind of like almost like scrapbook of like my life. But this album that's coming out in February is actually, it's so fun that you asked that, is that concept exactly. It's all one story. It's the story of Berlin.